which is nice, but you're still not quite there. So having not made a major league debut, what was that experience like for you to be on the brink? You're right there. If something happens, you're going to be a big leaguer. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of the Aces Loaded podcast. I'm the host, Zack Bayrouty, and our player guest this week is Dominic Miroglio, Oakland's finest. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. We couldn't pass up the opportunity after you just came off the taxi squad, which I want to get into here in a little bit. But first, I want to kind of get to know you a little bit, or have our fans get to know you a little bit more. You're from Oakland, I mentioned. Tell us about growing up in the Bay Area, which, I moved to the Bay Area, just for some background. I'm from Boston. I moved to the Bay Area, Central Valley, Stockton, and worked for the A's for a number of years. But it's an area that I became very familiar with, and I came to grow in awe of how rich that area is with not only baseball history but sports history in general. Can you take us through growing up in that area?
Yeah, and you hit it on the head. The sports in the Bay Area are awesome, from a youth level all the way up to professional sports. I was lucky. We've had the Warriors, we've had the Giants, we've had the Niners, all be in championship contention, and I grew up going to a lot of those teams' games, and it's a hotbed for watching really good professional sports.
I guess off the top, I should have congratulated you on the Warriors beating my Celtics the other night. So congratulations.
I appreciate that. Pretty impressive, because it was looking a little gloomy these last couple of years with those guys, but it was fun. And I think the parade's tomorrow or Monday, and those are usually a pretty good time. So
I'll be sure to check that out.
Yeah.
Right. What got you into baseball, and when did you really start not only getting into baseball but getting into being a catcher?
Well, getting into baseball, I think, is just a rite of passage, right? When you're 5 years old, you start t-ball, and then in t-ball, I really liked the pitcher position because it was closer to the hitter, so it kept me engaged. And then I kind of, as we moved forward, I was the catcher. Was so involved in every play that I liked that. But growing up, I played a lot of different sports. I played hockey, football, basketball, and obviously baseball as well. And I think that was good for my development, to kind of bounce around and do these different sports, to just be an athlete, and I enjoyed all of them. But yeah, baseball lasted the longest, and then catching kept me engaged back there.
Would you advocate for a kid growing up playing multiple sports? I know we're in an age now where I think parents especially want to get it specialized, but I would advocate, I think, for kids being able to play a number of different sports. You did it. What would you say?
Yeah, I think for sure. I think every sport should be seasonal, and you should move from one to the other. I know I always talk to my dad about the fact my first year playing baseball year round was my first year of college. I was 18 years old, and I think. Wow. Really? I think it had a lot of good benefits for me. But I also know that you got to keep up with the Joneses, right? So nowadays, that if you're playing baseball, you're going to 50 tournaments a year and all that. But I hope that kids are still able to play a lot of different sports, because I think it's beneficial for them.
You went to Bishop O'Dowd High School, and you were a quarterback there, right?
Yep. I had a lot of fun playing football. I definitely am part of a football family, and Bishop O'Dowd was a great experience. And I miss football for sure.
Was Hardy Nickerson your coach?
Yes, he was, and he actually just got the job back this year. He has gone on to coach in college and the NFL, and he obviously played in the NFL. But yeah, so he ran a pretty pro program that was pretty fun looking back on. I don't think a lot of kids get to experience that. He made it a good time. So yeah, I had fun playing football.
What ultimately made you decide on baseball?
That's a good question. I think, around my junior year, I kind of saw the writing on the wall that if I wanted to play at the highest level of any sport, that baseball was going to be the one I had the best chance at. And, I kind of ran with it. And then, you go into the recruiting process and all that and go from there.
You started collegiately at UCLA and you ended at USF. Take us through your college experience. And I know the WCC is a conference in baseball, might not be the Big West, which is more well-known in the baseball world, but it's certainly a league that has been up and coming with a lot of baseball talent, Gonzaga and San Diego and BYU and St. Mary's, even those programs.
Yeah, for sure. My college experience was up and down, right, through getting cut from a program. I got hurt my junior year, and then I had a couple good years mixed in there. But the WCC, I think I'm a huge advocate for, because I think it's still a very high level of baseball where you're still able to develop. It's not getting thrown into that Power 5 fire. So I was really able to develop in that conference, and I have a lot of fond things to say about it.
When did you think you would be drafted, and when did that kind of come to the front of your mind?
Yeah, kind of. I got drafted out of high school, 6 picks before the end of the draft. And then my junior year, I missed the whole year with a broken hand. So I kind of got taken on a flyer and didn't sign. So then by my senior year, actually kind of funny, I was like, well, you go back and I'm going to get drafted again and it's going to be all good. And I was hitting like 180 with like 22 games left, and I was like, oh God, like this doesn't just roll over, you don't just get drafted again because you've done it again. But I ended up turning it around and having a decent year, and then I got picked up by the Diamondbacks.
It was like 285 or something like that, right? Your
if
senior
you were to put a number on it, yeah, 285.
What was that like? You were drafted in the 20th round to hear your name and to finally turn pro after you decided to forego opportunities to do that in the past.
Yeah, it was. Obviously, I was ready at that point. There was no turning back to go back for a 5th year. But I think I just came into pro ball with a pretty open mindset. I've always had big league dreams, and I kind of just entered like, let's see where this goes. When you're 20th rounder, they're not moving mountains for you, and you got to pave your own way, which I think I've done an all right job at doing, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. So it's been a good experience so far.
Coming up in the Cal League with Visalia. The Cal League, I spent 14 years there, so I know kind of the level of that is, and the level of talent, and then seeing the level of talent here last year, it was pretty mind-blowing for me, not only see the level of talent, but see some of the names that are here at this level, guys that are bona fide big leaguers, and this is your first taste of this. What's it been like for you in Reno?
It's been great. And like you just said, I played in Visalia, which was in California, but I'm actually closer to home here. So it's been great having family be able to come and see me. And yeah, the AAA level is a lot of fun because you got a lot of guys that know what they're doing and know what they have to do to succeed. And guys really feed off each other. When you're in A-ball, everybody's still trying to figure it out, So it's been nice being around guys that know what they want to do and have a lot of good info that they can pass along to you.
Dominic Miroglio on the Aces Loaded podcast. I did this interview with Straley a couple of weeks back, and he was telling me about how he was more nervous to come up and make his AAA debut than he was to make his Major League debut because he felt at AAA he really felt he had something to prove here, whereas when he got the call to go to the big leagues, he felt he had proved already at the AAA level that he belonged. Can you relate to that in any sense? Did you have any nerves coming into this season?
I think I can relate to that. I've never been to the big leagues, so I can't, compare it to that. But I think I can still get nervous before every game, And I think for certain guys, if you don't, that's a problem. And I don't think if it's because I have anything to prove or, I'm scared. It's just it's good nerves that you want to do well and you want to. It's less about trying to prove people wrong, and I've kind of found that as my career has gone along is I'm phasing out trying to prove the people that doubted me wrong and just kind of prove the people that have given me all that I've needed to succeed, prove them right. And I think that leads to some nerves in a good way.
That's a great perspective. So much of life is about like the perspective that you take, and I really like that and appreciate that. You said you haven't been to the big leagues, but I want to get into the taxi squad now. You just came off the taxi squad, and you're not the first guy that's been on that's not had a major league debut yet. Duzenak went and was on the taxi squad too. You're not on the major league roster at that point. You're with the club. You're taking BP and working out at these major league ballparks. You're in the hotel. It's a nice hotel, and you get major league meal money, which is nice, but you're still not quite there. So having not made a major league debut, what was that experience like for you to be on the brink? You're right there. If something happens, You're going to be a big leaguer.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to go to a couple big league camps, so I'm familiar with some of the staff. And on the hitting staff is Joe Mather, who was my manager in Visalia, and Rick Short, who was my hitting coach in both Jackson and Missoula. So it's just nice to be around those guys because that's the best of the best. And you see their work ethic, and you see what they have to do to prepare for each game. And you always want to be around guys that are good at what they do. And I think that was special, and I took it all in, and it was a great experience.
What was it like to take BP at a Major League ballpark? What ballparks did you get to do that, by the way?
Yeah, we PNC Park in Pittsburgh, the ballpark on the river in Cincinnati, and then we finished up at the Phillies ballpark. And it's fun because if you're hitting in Group 3, there's a decent amount of fans coming in, and that's my game for the day, right? So it was fun taking BP in front of people because we don't do that much here in the minor leagues.
Do you remember the first time you went deep in BP?
No, I don't. I was blacked out the whole time. Yeah. No, but it was fun seeing balls going into the stands and fans there to catch them. I think it's important to be where your feet are. Like that's something that I've always dreamed of, and I want to get there, and I feel I will get there. But that'll come if it's in the cards and part of God's plan. And until then, it's just taking it day by day. So when you're there, you're ready.
Get into the automatic balls and strikes and the framing. You're known as a guy that is an excellent framer. Now with automatic balls and strikes, which we've been on since last month, it's been exactly a month actually. That takes that artistry out of the equation. Something that you have grown to know how to do. Have you been nervous about the implementation of automatic balls and strikes because that takes that craft out of your hands?
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, somebody that is good at tricking an umpire wants that umpire back there for as long as you can. That being said, again, you're just taking what the game gives you, and right now the game's given us an automated strike zone, and it helps you focus on other things because now your pitch calling is heightened, throwing guys out is heightened, and so it just helps me focus on other parts of my game that could probably use some work. So I'm using that, and until they implement it into the big leagues, if they do, it's still going to be a part of the game at some degree. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, I definitely like the artistry of trying to trick umpires.
Do you like the automatic balls and strikes?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a like or dislike, but it's just different. It seems to be fairly consistent, but you definitely have a better understanding of where the zone is when it's on a computer, which has been eye-opening. But yeah, I guess I'm lukewarm on it so far.
How about turning it around as a hitter? You might have more of a defined zone than you did in years past. What's your thoughts on that from getting in the box?
Yeah, well, I guess whether the zone is good or bad, you don't have anybody to blame. You can't yell at the computer, right? And so I think that's been a good aspect of it is it takes that part of the game out of taking yourself out of an at-bat because you're upset with an umpire. There's no more of that. So I think from that standpoint, it's good. But yeah, as a hitter, I probably have the same viewpoint on it because there's some strikes that get called balls too. So sometimes it was beneficial to have that back there too.
Catchers growing up that you looked up to that you strived to emulate?
Growing up, yes. With the A's had Ramon Hernandez, who's kind of a throwback, but I really loved watching him catch. And early on, Benito Santiago, and then kind of as I've moved, up in baseball through high school and college, it was Tyler Flowers, Jeff Mathis. Those guys who were kind of like true catchers, like they showed up to the yard to catch every day. And I have an appreciation for that for sure. And I enjoyed watching them play during these last couple of years.
Lastly, do you have any goals that you set for yourself this season, or are you just kind of taking it day by day and seeing where you wind up? Or did you have any predetermined numbers you wanted to hit before the season, anything like that?
Yeah, I hate to be cliche, but it is so day to day because you just said it. One day I'm on the taxi squad, the next day I'm in Reno, then we're flying all over the country. Things at this level change so much that I think goals can be great, but it's so important to take things day by day. And I think I've done a good job of that so far, and I want to continue that of just what's my job today and how can I put myself in a position to do it every day.
We were pumped for you to get that opportunity on the taxi squad. Wish you nothing but the best the rest of the way. And it's been fascinating to chat with you about ABS and all that. I'm going to keep doing it at batting practice, and I'll tell your stories on the air. But thanks for your time, man, and we'll catch you down the road.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
That's Dominic Miroglio. We'll come back and have a beer with Doug Drabeck next on the Aces Loaded podcast.
struck out 23 and 20 in the third.
Sliding neat stop by Dominic, nearly in front. Go down from Herrera on one bounce.
Ace Ball is here. For tickets, visit RenoAces.com all summer long.
We are back on the Aces Loaded podcast, and I said we were going to have a beer with Doug Drabeck, and this is usually where we have a beer with Doug Drabeck, but we had Jessica Kleinschmidt here with us, so we're going to have a beer with Jessica Kleinschmidt and talk a little bit. How you doing, Jessica?
I'm good now. How are you?
I'm good. Let's get these Ace Ball Ales going. This segment brought to you by Ace Ball Ale and My Ride to Work. Cheers. Have you had a Hot Valley Ace Ball Ale?
It's my first one.
Let me know what you think.
Okay.
I feel like that's just what you need right now.
Oh, it's exactly what I need right now.
It's been great to have you here, by the way. It's been so much fun. What's it been like for you being back in Reno and in this capacity?
You know, coming to Reno is always a lot because my family's here, but then you add the background that I have with this team has been fantastic. And I said this to them earlier, you make it easy to the point where I even told you, I was like, when is it going to get hard work? When are we going to start being with the hard work? And I realized, I feel like I'm just hanging out with a friend, talking about baseball, which ultimately I think is fun for me and fun for everybody listening.
Thank you. And it's fun for me, too, because, as much as I enjoy, doing these broadcasts, it's always an added bonus. Well, speaking of, we just passed Father's Day. I want to talk about Dad. You brought up how your dad played a big role in your love of baseball.
Yeah, so he's the reason I continued in baseball. He was my manager. He was my coach. He was the really annoyed dad, the baseball dad, but he also, the beauty of him was, since he was a coach, he knew not to bash on my coaches. Like, if you're sitting the bench, you probably deserve it, little girl. Like, what can you do? So he just really supported me in everything. And, I tell this story a lot. I went to an A's game and I fell in love with the team. And I told my dad, as we were driving back here from the Coliseum, I'm going to be the A's reporter one day. And here I am. And, I fell in love with Eric Chavez. He was the guy that I wanted to be like. I wanted to be a third baseman. And fast forward, my first home opener as an A's reporter, Eric Chavez was throwing out the first pitch. And so just stuff like that. And I think just as a male figure to tell his daughter, I'm going to support you in sports media, especially in a male-dominated industry, in a sport that is played by men, and have that support was fantastic. And, I like to think he'd be proud of me, and I wish he was here, but, he's got an amazing son who's my little brother, who's been fantastic and all of that. And he worked at Circus Circus, so I'm very familiar with the area and all of that. But yeah, he was dope.
Tell us about your dad working at Circus Circus, because you told me he did, and I've gone to Circus Circus for years, just coming up here on vacation.
Yeah, so he was an engineering buyer down in the basement, and thankfully for him, I never really got into gambling because I would just visit him at work and just hear the machines going off. So that saved me a lot of money. But he was just really, he had the suit and tie thing, and then was in charge of a lot of employees, and we were just used to that. And even my mom loves to go to Dottie's and gamble every now and then. So their date nights, he would be dragged to go gamble, and he hated it, but he also knew that that's what she wanted to do, and how all my family likes to be entertained when they're visiting and all of that. So yeah, he was pretty cool. He was also in charge of all the light fixtures you would see around Circus Circus, making good deals, and the paint to paint everything. And it was his idea to flash the lights at one point and all of that. So same thing. Every time I drive by Circus Circus, I think of him.
What would he think now if he saw you doing what you're doing and being not only involved with the A's, but being involved here in your hometown, because you do come back here frequently and you're still known in this community? What would he think now?
He would be wondering why I'm drinking a beer before I'm going to talk about baseball on a broadcast. But I think he'd be really stoked, because the one thing I'm really excited about is I get to leave tickets for my family and friends, and for him to be going to the Coliseum that he saw me light up like a Christmas tree when I watched Mark Kotze play center field. Now he's my manager. It's just it blows my mind. So I think he would have been just proud that I went out and did what I said I was going to do. And I wasn't cheap about it. I worked my butt off, and and even you said the other day, I said, thank you for the opportunity. And you said you earned it. And hearing stuff like that's important too, because I don't want to think that people are giving me handouts. I want to know that I earned it. And I think when he would see that too, and I just know he'd be that crazy Twitter, Facebook dad, that's my daughter, let's go, and everything like that. And he'd be here crazy and stuff. So I like to think of that from him. Yeah.
And it might be circling back, but when you said you were going to cover the A's one day, he didn't bat an eye, right?
I remember he was sitting on his those squeaky chairs that all the dads love. So it was so gross, the grossest chair, and it squeaked. I remember he sat down, he's like, all right, let's do it. And I think that's what I will never forget, is because he didn't once say, well, it's going to take a lot of hard work. He knew what I was capable of. And then the moment he passed away, I kind of became obsessed with it. And that's what the hard work to kind of deal with the trauma of losing him, not the most healthy thing to do, but it definitely turned me into the successful woman that I am.
I know you're a wine connoisseur, but now you're going to be a beer connoisseur. I really want to have your full-length review of this Ace Ball Ale. So I'm going to let you take a sip and let it get on your palate a little bit, and then you can tell us what you think.
I've been chugging it like crazy, but I will do it again. Yeah. I'm like a beer snob, because I like this and like all the girly Blue Moon beers, but this is really good. And I'm not lying to you. And you saw me, like, when you were talking, I was chugging it. I don't chug a beer I don't like. I'm a lady.
By the way, how does it feel to fill in for a Cy Young winner?
Now I'm nervous. I was fine up until this moment. It's just a normal day for me. I covered Tim Lincecum here. He's a Cy Young Award winner 2 times, so I feel like we're about even now.
Jessica Kleinschmidt, the best. And this has been the Aces Loaded podcast. We'll see you next time.